This silent expense robs retirees. You've worked too hard and saved too much to let this leak end up sinking your retirement sailboat. Cut this one cost and keep more every year without changing your lifestyle. Hello, I'm Jason. I build retirement plans every week, and you'll want to stay till the end to find out this one cost that could end up draining your retirement savings. Before we get into costs and expenses, we really kind of want to zoom out and talk about that dreaded word budget, all right? And all of our budget starts with our income. And once our income comes into our checking account, we really wanted to divide things into two buckets, but I'm going to take a little bit different approach than you've probably heard previously. So, a lot of us have what's called fixed expenses. But when I say fixed expenses, I want to talk about fixed cost where there's no decision involved. Okay, so what do I mean when I say fixed cost that there's no decision? Well, these are those costs that come in every month and you just got to pay them. Some examples are your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, maybe it's the cost of your phone, or possibly it's auto insurance. Because you see here, there's no real decision to be made, right? Your mortgage is the same every month. Whenever your utilities come in, while you may be able to change your habits for the following year in terms of turning off lights or not using certain things within the house as much, you still got to pay that bill. Same with your phone. We all need our phone to be connected to people. And again, we might have additional cost on those every month that we can pare down going forward. But whenever the bill comes in, we need to pay it. And then we have our auto insurance. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about more about this later. But whenever that bill comes in, we need to pay it because we've got to go ahead and get around from point A to point B. This next bucket that we're going to talk about are those expenses or costs that require a decision of us. And we have a really, really big decision also is when we walk out on life, we have something that we want to leave to someone. And a lot of times we just don't know where to start in terms of that decision making. And that's why I want to invite you to click the link below, and we'd love to send you a free copy of our Quick Start Estate Planning Guide. We made this very simple. It's 3 steps on the first page to get your beneficiaries in order, to make sure what you have goes to the right people. All right. There's even a script involved to tell you exactly what to say whenever you're making these calls to the company. So I want to invite you, click the link below, and we'd love to send you that Quick Start Estate Planning Guide so what you have goes to the people that you love. Then we have the variable bucket, and the variable bucket has some decisions to it. Okay. So then again, we have our income come in. We know that we're going to pay these fixed costs because we have to, right? Then we have some variable expenses or the variable bucket, and these have a decision tied to them. One of the first ones that comes to mind is just the way that we keep our sustenance, and it's food. Because it's a variable expense in the sense that there is a decision involved because when we go to the grocery store, we have different brands that we can choose. We can choose different cuts of meat. Another big decision that we have is are we going to cook at home or are we going to go out to eat? So, whenever we're talking about budgeting, whenever we're talking about keeping our costs lower, food is a really big one. Another example of a variable cost is shopping. So, whenever I say shopping here, some examples that I mean in terms of there's a decision involved are things like clothes. Do I really need those new pair of shoes? Do I really need that expensive jacket? Another thing is gifts. All right. Am I going to buy that loved one of mine a really expensive gift or a more frugal or economical gift? Then we have gadgets. We all have things that we like to purchase, and we want to allow ourselves the opportunity and the experience of purchasing these things, but there's a decision involved. It's not necessarily a need to have, it's more of a want to have. And another example of variable expenses where a decision is involved is our entertainment. So, what are some examples of entertainment expenses where we have a decision to make? Well, this could be going out to the movies. It could be going to see a play, maybe going golfing, especially when you decide, am I going to go to the municipal golf course or am I going to go to that really, really nice golf course that costs twice as much? Maybe you like to go to concerts and whatnot. So these entertainment expenses require decision and it's that discretionary income. And I want to share something else. We actually, in our practice, use something called the Simple Cash Flow Tracking Tool. And one way to do this, if you really want to get good at budgeting, if you really want to understand where your money is going, is to give yourself an allowance for your variable expenses. So you give yourself a budget, and then you know, hey, this is how much I have for those expenses where a decision is involved. So, step number one in trying to keep our costs low in retirement is having the good old budget. And I think I would encourage you to take some time and really bucket up your expenses in terms of those fixed costs and those variable costs using that lens of, do I have a decision to make in regards to this expense? Or is there no decision? I just have to go ahead and pay it. So, another really important thing that we can do when it comes to budgeting and trying to make sure that our retirement savings lasts as long as it possibly can is to lower our costs. So, what is a way that we can lower our cost? Well, one example is subscriptions. So we have different subscriptions. Some of them are to online websites, some of them are to streaming services like Netflix or Amazon Prime. Maybe it's a magazine or something like that. If you've got kids, possibly there's different types of gaming subscriptions that you have. So a really easy way to kind of attack these is go ahead and print out or just go ahead and look online at your last 3 months of bank statements and go ahead and circle all of those reoccurring subscriptions. And then just take a hard look at it and say, do we really use this? Do we really need it? And then here's something else. Is there possibly a lower tier subscription that would still fulfill the need of what we wanted? And it might be a little less expensive. Another way to lower our cost is to shop around or reshop. So, what do I mean by reshop? What I mean is we want to reshop or shop around some of those things that we already pay for. And one really big example is our auto and home insurance. This is a simple and can be really powerful way to lower our costs. Just put it on the calendar and every year go and look at your auto and home insurance policies and shop around. See if there's somebody else that can offer the same coverage for a lower price or possibly end up changing your coverage for a lower cost. Something else that you'll want to reshop is your cable and internet provider. Now, these industries were built on stealing customers from their competitors. So, very, very often, if you have cable for your TV or your internet provider, there are other competitors that are offering different types of deals. And so, every year, or possibly at the very least every 2 years, you'll want to look at this and see, are you still under some type of contract? And is there somebody else out there that will offer the same services for less? Another way that we can lower our cost is to take advantage of memberships. Now, what do I mean by memberships? I mean memberships that can offer discounts. So, one of the typical ones that you often hear of is AARP, and they have a lot of really great discounts. Now, you need to be aware of them and you've got to remember to use them. But also, if you've got that roadside assistance from AAA, AAA offers a lot of discounts and they don't always have to do with travel. So you want to look at those membership benefits that they have. And another one that my wife and I used often is those wholesaler memberships like a Costco or a BJ's. And we use Costco. And one time we were leaving Costco and we had just gotten some blinds in the house. And we were leaving Costco and we had gotten our bulk snacks and our laundry detergent and all those things. And we looked over and we realized, oh, wow, they have partners that can offer. basically anything inside of your house, whether you need a new air conditioner or flooring or possibly some window treatments where you're like, oh man, I wish I would have remembered that. So taking advantage of these memberships can really lower your costs. And then one last one that I think is really important for retirees to look at is prescription drugs. So, a lot of retirees, especially those that are 65 or older, may have something called Part D or Medicare insurance that covers your prescription drugs. But here is something that you may want to consider. There are times where it makes more sense to just pay your prescription drugs out of pocket versus going through and using your Part D prescription drug insurance. And some companies that can provide this are something called Good RX and another one is costplusdrugs.com. So GoodRx and costplusdrugs.com are websites and companies that offer drugs at a discount. Now, a lot of times they need to be generic drugs, but they do have some name brands as well. So you'll just want to compare that. Does it make more sense for me to use my insurance, whether that's Part D or your employer's insurance, or should I just pay out of pocket and go to one of these discount providers? Another thing in terms of prescription drugs is you may want to ask your healthcare professional or your healthcare provider to write the script in a 90-day prescription. You can oftentimes save money and to also ask them, is there a generic available that will end up producing the same type of result that we're trying to look for? So, as always, talk to your doctor, your healthcare professional about this, but it's something to consider to try to lower those costs. Okay. So now we've gone through our budgeting and we've gone through some ways that we can possibly lower cost. But let's get to that one cost that you must cut in retirement. And what is it? Drum roll. It's Amazon. Now, Amazon is a wonderful company, right? They have essentially an endless amount of products that are available. Many times they're cheaper than you can get them in other stores, and they're very easy. It's very easy to do that one click purchase. It's very easy to get that prime shipping that just gets there sometimes same day or 1 or 2 days down the road, okay? But it's very, very dangerous because it's so easy to purchase things that we may or may not need. So here's something that I want to share that I think you and your family should implement, and it's the 24-hour rule. The 24-hour rule is this. Say you're shopping on Amazon and you feel like you want something. Go ahead and put it in your cart and then wait 24 hours. Just wait 24 hours to see if you have the same desire or the same need for that item 24 hours later. Research shows us that utilizing this very, very small process can really dramatically decrease what we end up spending online. And it's not just Amazon, right? This can apply to any provider, any online retailer, any online store is just implementing that 24-hour rule so that we're not a victim to our emotions, because sometimes in retirement, we can just get bored and you can end up buying things to kind of fill up the boredom and we don't always need them. And then something else that I think is really, really important is to think about yard sales. Because if you think about yard slash estate sales, kind of like my dad, it is people's things that they're selling at massive discounts. All right. So it's a really good way to try to find things that we need. And number one, it gives us a way to have an outing. It gets us out of the house, right? It's kind of fun. It's kind of like a treasure hunt in a lot of regards. And then another thing that's a benefit for it is you're helping a neighbor, right? Or a fellow community member. So instead of sending your money up to a big corporation, you're actually getting to help a community member or a neighbor. Now, here's the rub with a yard sale or an estate sale. You could end up falling into that same emotional buying because it's a really good deal. We always make jokes with my mom. My mom is a bargain shopper. So she was always able, on a teacher's salary, she needed to save money and she was always able to find really good deals. And sometimes it seemed like she made the purchase just because it was a good deal, not necessarily because case you needed it. So whether it's Amazon or whether it's a yard or estate sale, those impulse purchases, those emotional buys, those can really drain our retirement because we can form a habit to it and we end up accumulating a lot of stuff that we don't really need. Well, I hope that this was helpful to give you some tips on how to cut costs in retirement so that you can keep and enjoy more. And I want to invite you to watch this video here where we go over the new retirement strategy that's changing the game.